Welcome. My name is Natasha Sherman, and I am your host. And my guest today is Autin Wright, and I'd like to read to you a little about his bio. Autin Dean Wright was born and raised in Jamaica, a graduate of the Edna Manley School of Visual Art in Kingston. He was honored with a Certificate of Merit, as well as a gold, a silver, and 2 bronze medals at Jamaica's annual Festival of Fine Arts exhibition. His work was included in the National Fine Arts Exhibition in Jamaica, and he was the recipient of the Simon Bolivar Sculpture Competition Award hosted by the Venezuela Embassy in Jamaica. Autin moved to the United States in 1987. After graduating from the Connecticut Institute of Art in Greenwich, he became the technical supervisor for paint and patina at the Johnson Atelier Institute of Sculpture in Mercerville, and he's been there for 26 years. Autin has 6 sculptures installed at the Grounds for Sculpture in Hamilton, and Camille is at Penn Medicine's Princeton Healthcare System in Plainsboro, New Jersey. Welcome.
Thanks, Natasha.
Pretty impressive. So it's been kind of an interesting journey. So you started out in Jamaica, and I read somewhere that your mom was a dressmaker and your father was an upholsterer. So one could look at that as kind of artistic expression, but nobody else was doing art in your family.
Nope.
But somehow you were an artist.
Yeah. I discover I was an artist.
Yes, yes.
I was always drawing and people thought it was, I'm good, but
Right.
for me it was like, okay, it's something that happens, I guess, naturally, or something that I thought was normal for everybody.
We wish.
And so I took it for granted. And then now, as time goes on, as I get older and get more involved and getting more into art, as I get older, I'm accepting the fact that, yes, this is something that's special and unique. And,
Yes.
and it's something that, it's a gift. So
Yes.
I need to,
Accept the gift
accept
and
exactly.
make it flourish.
Exactly.
So I read that you were kind of equally interested in art and in science. So when you applied for college, I guess it was,
Yes.
you applied both, and
Yes.
you got accepted in the art school.
Yes, I got accepted in art school, and my brother, my older brother, he's a doctor, and so he's more in the science section, and he looks at life differently. He
I'll
think
bet.
that art is just something that you do for fun or something like that. So,
Right.
and because he was older, he had a lot of influence as far as, he had a lot of science book and all that stuff, any subject at all relating to science. So I was gravitating towards that, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got that kind of that filters through, and how does that serve you in your art, the science piece?
Yeah, because what I do, I consider my studio like a lab, and I like to experiment. Ideas doesn't just come just like that. Ideas evolve, and it start with something as simple as seeing something for the first time, whether it's a new material, a new color, or and then what happened from that, you're starting to think of as far as what you can do with this to make it into something that's one of a kind, different, or help you in your creative process. So and so you're always searching for new materials. For me, it's materials, and materials also helps me in shaping my ideas. Yeah,
So it's a relationship with the material.
Yep.
Yeah, and you have to be a little bit fearless to do that.
Yes.
Because
yes.
it's, most people
Yes.
want to do the tried and true.
Yes.
And you keep reaching for, there's another experiment to try.
Exactly. So what happened is that most material, it's new, it's different, and it's out there. But at the same time, there's limitation to a certain extent. But what you're trying to do, you're trying to push and you're trying to exhaust all possibility as far as what you can do with that. So you're always trying to push in, and maybe it might not be, it wasn't created for what you're using it for. So you're doing something with that material that was maybe never ever done before. So.
And you have to be willing to fail also.
Oh yeah, I've failed many times, big times.
So you've got some sculptures in the grants for sculpture, and then I want to talk a little bit about some of the shows you've done. But you also, you restore existing pieces. So on a daily basis, what you're doing is not only creating, but restoring. What else?
Yeah, a lot of artwork, different substrate, mostly bronze, metal, but a little bit of wood and cement and fiberglass. But I work at the Seward Johnson Atelier, and I've been there for 20 years. I came as an apprentice. We had an apprenticeship program back then. I apply. Of course, I knew about the Johnson Atelier from I was in Jamaica, from I was in art school. In Jamaica, across the street from where the art school is located was the U.S. Embassy. And in the U.S. Embassy, there's a library. And in the library, they have like different books and magazines. And of course, I gravitate to anything that says art, sculpture, anything. So on the that was one of the magazines that was on the shelf. It's the Sculpture magazine. Actually published. The office is right there on the grounds also, and which when I opened it up, there was an ad for an apprenticeship program. And I filled it out. I sent it in. They sent me all the information that I needed, but I just did it just for the. Just
on a lark.
Exactly, not knowing.
Because it seems to me that you were already doing well in Jamaica. You're a thriving artist. You're having shows. You're winning awards.
Exactly.
So it's not like you were there. Oh, let me look for what's next and better.
Exactly. Yep.
But kind of, let me just see.
Exactly. Yep. So and then my mom came. My mom came here first, and then she applied for all of us who were kids. Took me longer because I was much older, but eventually I came here. U.S. for me was huge, and then I ended up doing something else. I was, but I did graphic design at the Institute of Preparatory Institute in Greenwich, Connecticut. I did graphic design there 2 years, and for me it was just a way of saying, okay, this is my way of supplying, helping me to get funded so I could do my sculpting.
Right.
That was my idea, but then. When I was in Stanford, Connecticut, I was in the library again, and there it was, Sculpture magazine, asking to apply for apprenticeship program, which I did. So I applied.
This was take two.
Yeah, exactly. I did. They said, "Hey, come on down," and I said, "All right, no problem." So I came down, and I was going to be there just for 2 years. Because the apprenticeship program lasts for 2 years. So I said, okay, I'll do 2 years and see what happens. But 2 years was not that easy, because they gave you a stipend, which,
to support yourself, starving artist.
Starving artist, and I was really starving. So I said, the first opportunity, position that opens up, I'm gonna take it. And paint, patina, and preservation, that was the first department that had a position for full-time staff, which I applied, and rest is history. So explain patina and what you actually do for those of us who don't know. Yeah, so patina is a French word for paint, actually, but in the art world, just to separate the difference between the different types of finishing, then they use patina, where it's more like a chemical application. So you apply a chemical to the bronze, and what you do, you're forcing it to oxidize. And so and then there's, so it goes from, in a bronze on a whole by itself will turn green. But you can actually force it to do different things if you use a torch, heat it up to a certain temperature, and apply these different salts, whether it's cupric nitrate will give you more like a bluish green. Ferric nitrate will give you more like a warmer color, like more towards the reds. Silver nitrate, silver, And so, and then you could combine them. You can, which I call maybe like a soup. You can combine them.
Art meets science.
Exactly, and you get a different effect. And then coming back now to the whole idea of working with clients. So because of that, we have to also restore a lot of sculpture pieces that might be out there for a long time. And then that's one of the jobs that I have to do is do the restoration work.
So who are your clients there besides doing restoration work on the grounds?
Oh, wow.
Not that you don't need to tell me their names, but who would come to you and say, I need you?
Institutions like museums, individual artists, galleries.
Oh.
Yes. And, people who owns, artwork themselves, And then other artists.
Who want to learn from you.
Exactly, other artists, yeah. So, yeah.
What's the best part for you?
The best part is actually, I like to teach. I like to encourage. I like to work with other artists. I like to know that if they're struggling, I like the fact that I can help them or work with them to achieve whatever they want to achieve. I think, and also teaching, like sharing my experience and my ideas with young kids. I like that too. So, yeah.
That's great because there are some people who would want to kind of, this is mine, and keep it close to the vest and not share it. Yeah. But the fact that you want to encourage other artists really points to the fact that you are an artist, because art is about art.
Yeah. And then and because you have the fine arts, and then you have art, in general. But then you need to have people or kids or other people who are out there, young, old, doesn't matter, anybody. But it's a process, and the process is not. It's a long process, and I think I am more in love sometimes with the process itself than the end result. And
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so sometimes, that's why you want, by sharing, what your knowledge, you're helping other people to understand that. And then when they look at an object or they look at a sculpture piece, they can appreciate, what they're looking at based on knowing.
It's interesting because, we tend to be so goal-oriented, and as a life coach, I work with people to reach their goals, but we forget to love the process.
Yes.
And the end is just the end. It's very short-lived,
Exactly.
So it's really being engaged and in love with the process. That's awesome.
And there you go again, being in the lab as a scientist. You're doing, and you're actively doing something.
Yeah.
Hopefully, hoping that somehow the result might be favorable to what you want. But it doesn't mean it happens all the time. But the process is what it's all about.
A lot of people feel insecure around artists. Like I've always had this fear of being like good friends with somebody who writes a book and says, I want you to read it, and then reading it and hating it, and then what do you say? So it's like, with art, it's people I think are intimidated, what am I supposed to feel? What does it mean? And I think you mentioned that sometimes you don't even name it because, and I think that's lovely. I think sometimes it's nice to have a name, but it's really, your process was your process. You created it, you lived it, you had whatever relationship with it you had, but then there's a whole new relationship over here, and I think people need to trust their visceral reactions.
Exactly, that's true.
Would you be insulted if somebody was standing at it and said something that you go, what?
Oh, no, not at all, man. Of course, not at all. I said, wow, at least it had an effect on you. Did something to you. I mean, that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Your interpretation of what's happening is, we have kids, and our kids, but then their kids goes on their own. And I always relate my art to that, like I become pregnant with this idea, and then I have this thing, which is art, of course, so it came out.
You give birth to it.
I gave birth to it. And now what happened, you have it, you control it up to a point, but eventually you gotta have to let it go.
Yeah.
And that relationship is gonna be different from your relationship with that, so your relationship that you had with that thing, the person,
Yes.
Your kids'
You
friends.
let them have relationships out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The kids, your kids grow up, they have a relationship with their friends, and
Yes.
maybe the next door neighbor is going to be different from the one they
Yeah.
have with you. So
Yeah. I sometimes envy the artist. Although, I've come to realize that I have my own form of creativity and it shows up in different places, but, I can't draw a stick figure, so it was like, oh gosh, I should be able to do that. But so it's really, at some point you mentioned like the fact that it turned out that you had this application, and then here you are a couple of years later and you see the application, like there's a kind of meant to be, a destiny about it.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think when you have something inside of you and you have, it becomes part of you, it grows, and what happened is that because it's inside of you, it gravitates to the similarity of what's inside. So it's like me, going to the library and gravitate towards a sculpture magazine, because now it's everything that I think of and see, it's all about art related. So you gravitate towards a magazine, books, people, institution, and it's, gravitating towards the atelier, which is,
Yes.
even although I was in Jamaica, it was how many miles away from here, not knowing that they would ever
waiting for you.
Exactly, I guess so. So I think, first it have to be inside, and it have to be part of you. It have to be planted inside of you, something that's inside, and then eventually it just pulls you in the direction in which you should go. And I think that's what's been happening. I think it's like, if you call it destiny, then yes, that's what it is.
Years ago, I remember listening to someone on a tape cassette, and he said, we come into the world on a wave of intent, and it's up to us to resonate with that wave. So the wave of intent was there, and then you kept kind of resonating and being drawn to the things that aligned with that. Yeah. So I think what I'd like you to do is, we're going to show pictures of your artwork, but can you name the 6 pieces that are in the grounds for sculpture? Sleep,
yes, sleep. I think that's the most favorite. And of course, Cordell, Carmelita, Regina, and
it's one of your children that you let go.
Exactly.
And can't think of their name in the moment.
Exactly.
So one of the things that you talked about, and I'm jumping around a lot, but I want to kind of pull in all the pieces.
That's fine.
That you said you did a lot of wood carving in Jamaica.
Yes.
And wood has its limitations, but that there's something very alive and textural and sensual about it. And then in bronze, you have the freedom to manipulate and squeeze even more. So talk a little bit about that, because do you go back to wood? Is that still something that draws you? And what should we be looking at when we're looking at, like I said to you, when I see sculpture, a lot of it draws me to touch it.
Yeah, wood is, I think wood is naturally, it's part of us. We all the elements that made up wood, I'm sure it's in all of us. So there's, there's a connection, and it's alive, and it's just like us, it was once living, and so it leaves a mark. It leaves a finger. It has a fingerprint. It has
It's history.
It's history, and I think it has a soul, a spirit, and and what it does, it speaks to us. That's why I think we tend to be disconnected from all of that. We need to get back to that, where we can reconnect with what's really supposed to be real, and wood it has all the element that's, I think, make up us and the earth and everything that we should be part of. And I think I think that's why we are supposed to be driven close to it if we allow ourselves to. I think that's just a matter of letting go.
And that's also what's so wonderful about the Grounds for Sculpture, is not only wood, but nature is interwoven and interconnected, and it would be, one would not be good without the other.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because nature, I think, to a certain extent, is spontaneous, isn't it? It's chaotic, but it's organized at the same time.
Yes, it has its own rules.
Exactly, its own rules, and I think that's where the grounds comes in and where artists comes in, because we can be chaotic too, and
yes, we can,
and we have our own rules, and
yes,
So
you can make bronze look like wood.
Yes, I can make bronze look like wood. Of course, working in the finishing departments and doing a lot of finishing, working with a lot of the artists. And then, of course, you have to have an eye. You have to have an eye for, having, you have to have a good eyes. You must be able to, and not good eyes, but know exactly when something is okay, or it's a feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a feeling, like when you're working, the work says, okay, that's it. I'm done. And
leave me alone.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Because you looked at it and you move it around and you turn it around and you keep turning it and you kind of give it a break. You walk away. You come back and you take a look and you see it and you said, "Oh, that's it. I'm done. That's it. No more."
It actually sounds mystical.
I think it's if you use the word mystic, but it's inside. There's something that's inside of you.
Yes, that, again, your relationship with it, the energy, connection, and then, releasing it.
Exactly.
So you have a show right now at the Paul Robeson Center, the Princeton Arts Council. Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
I'm having a show with Ricardo right now. He's 2D and I'm 3D, and it's pretty much all my earlier work, and those pieces are all bronzes. And my original work that I did in wood, that was my launching pad to take me into bronze. If you look at my woodwork, my early woodwork and my bronzes, there's a certain similarity. And then very organic. The part that was more challenging for me was doing the finishing. Even though I do finishing all the time and I work with other artists, but even on my own work, that was the most challenging part, is the finishing. Because what my original idea was about the form, and I don't think anything should take away from that. And so I was afraid that by doing any kind of finish, that would take away from what the form is saying.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but what happened is that I was pretty lucky, because my finishing was also very organic. So even though I was very hesitant, hesitant to a certain point, but not be afraid,
Right.
Because you can easily redo it if it wasn't working. But when I did it, I take that leap and just jump right into it, and I did the finishing, which is very organic. All my finishings it's actually starting to enhance the work.
Wow.
And make the work stand out even more.
Okay, as opposed to taking away from it.
Exactly.
So I have a question that maybe is unanswerable. We all come out of something, out of somewhere. We don't operate in a vacuum. So does your being born in Jamaica and growing up in Jamaica, does it surface, or is your art informed by that in any way?
I think it is, because when I first came here and I see what was happening here as far as art, I realized my work was even more organic. Because when you're in Jamaica, you're just caught up in your own world. You're doing what you're doing without knowing what's happening. You might see it in magazine, but not to that. You're just focusing on what you're doing. So my thing was, based on my environment. I was doing stuff organic, As I said, if I'm carving wood, tree, whatever I was carving, it's already giving you a start. It's already have a shape. It's a cylinder. So you already start with a shape. So the wood is very organic. So when I came here, and I looked at what was happening around me, I realized everything was more on industrial, where it's very angular. Everything was very
that's
angular.
Interesting.
I know, because I noticed that. I noticed a lot of the sculpture pieces were flat and angular, and I could tell that there was a difference. And it was very hard at first to accept that, but you go back to the basic design, basic everything, and then you start to absorb it and
right, because the new culture starts to infiltrate who you are, and gets kind of combined with all of that.
And if you look at my most recent work now, you can see where some areas are a little bit flat and some areas are a little bit angular. So it's a combination. Yes, it's a combination of both organic and angular now. So there's influence. I guess it's hard to avoid that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no reason to avoid it. It's interesting to observe it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're at the end of our time. I really want to thank you for being here. I invite people to go to your website, to go to see the exhibit, and to contact you, and definitely to go to the Grounds for Sculpture and check out your work. And we'll be posting some pictures.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My name is Natasha Sherman. Thank you for joining us.